Welcome, 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 welcome to Sandra's podcast today. I thought I'd just do that and see how that sounds, but I think I like Soul Conversation with Sandra, the podcast. I like that. Sandra's podcast sounds too generic, right? So we are going to get started today. We have a guest. Her name is Indiana Inward. And she is a awareness and transformational coach. And I'm going to let you find out a little about her directly from her. She's waving at me now. And I am going to let her in shortly. Hold on. Let me do this. I just can't hide it. We're about to have a conversation. I think
Let me just turn it
like
around
it.
here. Here we go. Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I gave them a little song. It's like the Pointer Sisters. It's just, I can't get it out of my head. It's like I am really excited. It's because we had a
I'm sorry. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to look for the dog in the other room. Come on. Come on.
So with Sandra for Soul Conversations. I'm excited. You are. You know what? We've got puppy wuppies all over the place. I've got 2 dogs that decide when I'm online or when I am doing my conversations or lives, they just want to talk. They got that energy, right? Wow. So I'm excited. I didn't even know how to really do my introduction because I was so excited. So I had it all written down and totally went with the flow of whatever the energy was. So the reason why I'm excited is because we had an impromptu live where that energy of what you were telling us about the shamanic healing that you do, the herbal remedies that you do, all of this stuff. I want you to talk about that more. And I'm going to ask, I think, 3 questions. Will you talk about your spiritual awakening? And how did you start your shamanic journey? And let's see, what was the other one? What does your journey look like now? And I know, we got an hour, and I know these topics could take really days because our spiritual journey is an ongoing process. I know at least mine is.
All right, so a little bit. I actually, it's funny that you're asking me those questions as far as like, how my journey began. Because yesterday I was looking back into an old Facebook account that I got locked out of by my ex-husband. That's another funny story. It was like, I guess I was exposing too much information about him, and he figured out how to change my password. And I was looking at pictures of like how the old me, the Indiana, how I used to be, and I was just like, wow, what a fucking transformation I've gone through. I mean, I literally looked so much older in my younger years than I do now that I'm a little older than I was then, And I think a lot of that came from because I really started reflecting on that, like, how did I get to a place where now everyone swears my daughter and I are sisters, and they don't believe that I'm actually her mother. And they're like, but you look so young, you don't look that age, you look so young. And the reality is that I was drowning in depression. And the energy, the vibration of depression, as some people may know it as a mental illness, as a shaman, I see it as an energetic frequency that takes over our body, that manifests in our temple. And, with that manifestation comes a lot of times from us focusing so much on the traumas that we've experienced in life. And and putting so much energy into the wounds that those traumas bring. And that's where I was at. You know, I've experienced quite a few different traumas in life that caused wounds that I was just so focused on that overall just became depression for me. And I didn't know how to handle the depression. I didn't know how to, you know, live with that depression, because it was so painful that it was a lot easier for me to just drown in alcohol, drown in different drugs. You know, marijuana being one of them, cocaine being another one. Then I started experimenting with the ecstasy pills, and, you know, it was whatever I can escape, you know, whatever was an escape from having to feel that depression, having to feel that sorrowness, was my to-go-to. And even, I mean, I even went into the world of entertainment for quite a few years. You know, it was just like, I just needed to escape the pain because it was just so painful, right? But along the line of dealing with depression from the age of like about 11, that's when I started to experience depression. And I had my daughter when I was almost 22, right at the end of my 21st year of life. I knew that I couldn't give her that example as a way of living, you know, which at the time, you know, now that I understand the way that shamanism works, as mothers, when we carry our babies in our wombs, we're already passing down all those energies to them through that cord, you know. And so, but apart from the passing of the energy through the cord, I also had a deep understanding that I didn't want to be that example of a mom to my daughter, a person who was always miserable, a person that was always snappy because I was so defensive. I was ready to cut heads off just if you ever gave me any kind of criticism that I didn't ask for. You know, it was like, what the fuck do you think you are? You know, it was one of those. So it was quite the journey, but I was committed to showing my daughter a different way and to being able to give her a different experience of mother-daughterhood relationship, as the one that I had with my mother was very challenging and a huge part of my depression, you know. Sometimes when it comes to our parents, we want our parents to acknowledge us and accept us and just allow us to feel wanted and loved in such a desperate way that we go to the extreme to make it happen. And that was my case. That was my life. I was like going through the extreme so that my mother could just accept me for who I was and blah, blah, blah. And it just never happened. And the years went by and it got worse and worse and worse. And so did my depression. My depression will dig in deeper and deeper. And I was like just drowning and on a road to self-destruction. And so that was pretty much how like my life was like before I began my path. And what started my path for me was what I mentioned, my daughter. I was like, I need to show my daughter different. I need to be different for my daughter. It's just like, you know, and I always say this as a coach. I tell all my students, I tell people that I mentor, you don't need anything. You just have things in your life that will be useful for you, you know? But at the time, I desperately felt like I needed a shift. I needed something different for my daughter. And so the tool that came across from the universe, like just landed on my YouTube channel, was a soul retrieval video. And I was like, what the hell is this? I typed in how to get over depression. And, you know, a whole bunch of different videos came up, but the one that was at the top was a soul retrieval. Shamanic soul retrieval saved my life was the title of that video. And I was like, well, I gotta watch this, because if it saved his life, then maybe it can do the same for me. And so I watched this video about soul retrieval, and he talked a little bit about his journey. He was like hiking in the forest somewhere, and he heard some drumming, and that drumming called to his attention. And when he went, they started like doing a healing on him that he ended up, what he felt like he went out of consciousness. He passed out. And he said he doesn't remember much about what happened during that time of unconsciousness, but when he came back into his body, he felt like a different person, to the point that he was a Wall Street worker. He worked in the corporate world of Wall Street and ended up quitting that same week when he got back to New York. And that kind of started his journey and everything else. And I was just like, well, I need to find a shaman. I don't even know what the hell a shaman is, but I need to find a shaman. And at the time, I was already a Reiki level 2 practitioner. which now that I have the awareness that I know, now I understand why as a Reiki practitioner, then I would do Reiki healing for people and people would feel tired afterward. They'll be like, well, I feel extremely tired. It felt good. I was relaxed, but then I was tired for weeks. And it was a matter of like, when it comes to Reiki, you can never do harm or wrong with Reiki for someone, but the practitioner administering the Reiki will have a huge impact on how that Reiki energy flows for the person. And of course, if I'm full of depression and full of all these anxiety issues that I was going through, which at the time my anxiety had gotten a lot better because of Reiki, you know, of course, there was some sort of transmission that was going on there. And so, you know, I just started searching for a shaman near me, and I came across a shaman that was not near me. I ended up having to take a ferry from Bridgeport, Connecticut down to Long Island. And I went and got a shamanic healing with a practitioner there, a Reiki practitioner who was a Celtic background. And, you know, not only did I travel a lot, it was like a 2-hour ferry ride over to Long Island with my car. So I had to pay for the car, I had to pay for the ferry, I had to pay for gas, because once I got off the ferry, I had to drive about an hour to her, and then drive back to the ferry and blah, blah. It was a lot. It was a huge expense, you know. Afterwards, I felt like, you know, the session was about 2.5 hours, 3 hours long. And I sat there on a couch, and she was on this couch, and she was just drumming. And every once in a while, she'll stop drumming, and she'll tell me something that happened in my life. And she'll tell me that she's now collecting my soul from that. And for those of you that don't know what a soul retrieval is, it is one of the most magical, powerful, transformational healing tools that exist in the world, in my opinion. It really is. And I say this because I've gone through so many. I mean, like I tell you guys, I was desperate for healing. I tried therapists that were psychologists. I tried therapists that were psychiatrists. I tried hypnosis. I tried cellular memory healing. I tried acupuncture. I mean, you name it, and I pretty much went through it, looking for ways to heal this depression naturally, because I was so against putting anything toxic in my body, because I just felt that, hey, I'm already putting toxins in my body like alcohol, like marijuana, like cocaine every once in a while when I'm in the vibe of that cocaine era with people that were involved with that. And it doesn't help me. So why would medication that I'm going to have to take on a daily basis help me? That was one. Two, I had friends that were on psychosis medications, and they went worse. They got worse afterwards. I mean, they went from being depressed to being manic depressed, you know. And the doctors had already diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, seasonal mood disorder, PTSD, anxiety, panic attack disorders. I mean, I had about 5 different mental health diagnoses that were given to me. And every single time that I went to the doctors on one of those, like, I don't know what else to do, I just want to kill myself. I was also very suicidal. They were like trying to push the medication on me. And I had to become very just particular about what words I was using, because one time, because of the way I was expressing my emotions, they wanted to put me in a psychiatric institute, you know, as a way to prevent me from hurting myself. And then I had to like talk my way into like, no, that's not what I meant. I've never even thought about like actually going through with suicide. That, yeah, you know, it was a very challenging times in my life. And I just knew there had to be a different way. And so when I came across the soul retrieval and found a shaman that did soul retrieval, because I was at such a desperate place to be a better role model for my daughter, I said, okay, I'm going to go through with this investment, because that's something that I always want to let everyone know. Everything that you do for your spiritual path is going to be an investment for yourself. It is going to be an investment for yourself. There's people that come to me and they're like, well, I want, you know, like, I want a reading and this and that. And it's not from a place of like, I have to charge you so that I can become rich, so that I can become like, have a better bank account. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the investment that you're putting in for yourself. If I'm giving out people readings for free, shamanic plant medicines for free, you're not going to accept the full value of what that is going to offer you because it's free. But when you actually have to pay for something, then it puts you in a perspective of really, truly acknowledging what the medicine is doing for you and truly valuing what the medicine is going to do for you. And that changed when I started teaching Reiki. In the beginning, I was just doing free Reiki for everybody, free Reiki. Literally, out of the 5 students that I gave free Reiki to, there was only 1 student that actually valued it and went through with it. The other 4, you ask them what does Shokurai do, and they don't even remember because they haven't even gone back to Reiki. Now, when I look into all the other students that I actually began to start charging Reiki for, they practice Reiki on a daily basis. I literally just had a student hit me up from 3 years ago to give me a testimonial that he went through with Reiki and healing his relationship with his father and the way that they communicated with each other. So it's powerful stuff when you actually invest into yourself, you know. And so I invested into this soul retrieval. At the time I was married. I was in a very toxic marriage. I actually posted some pictures yesterday because I was working a wedding with a friend who does catering. Yeah, and it was so weird because I was watching the ceremony of the couple getting married, and I became very emotional, and I started crying, and I was just like, wait, what kind of tears are these? And they were actually happy tears. They were really joyful tears because it's just such a moment in your life where you really experience that presentness of love, that presentness of uniting with another individual without caring about, you know, who they are, what gets on your nerves. And to me, it's such a beautiful, sacred thing. And so it did make me emotional yesterday. And then I was in the midst of going through my old page, finding old pictures of myself to do a little story time of like my journey in life. And I came across my wedding pictures, and I was like, what are the odds? I'm at a wedding, and I'm coming across my wedding pictures. You know, I was like, wow, you know, and I was married at the time to a man who was in a lot of power in a political way, also in the church. He was like the head pastor of all the other churches that oversees all the churches. And then he was a councilman running with the goal of becoming the mayor next. So he had a lot of connections. And when he and I got married, that's when I realized how much corruption and there is between the churches and government. I mean, wow, it's fucking mind blowing. People wouldn't even believe the kind of backdoor deals that happens with pastors and the money that the churches get from the government, you know, and it's a whole system to keep people trapped in this cage, you know. And so I was married to this man who was in such high power, but was also an alcoholic who used to beat me, you know. And because I grew up in a very toxic home with my mother, who used to abuse me all the time, physically, mentally, emotionally, verbally, to then tell me I did it because I love you, it was normal for me to accept that kind of love from my partner as well. You know, it's like, well, this is how mom showed me love was, you know, every time I did something wrong, I was beaten because I did it wrong. And then there was the walking into the bedroom while I'm sobbing and crying about that beating, where now I'm being caressed in the face. Mi hija, my daughter, you know I love you. You know I'm only doing this to teach you the right way. You know that I care about you. Everything's going to be okay. Please don't do it again so that I don't have to do this again. You know, so not only was I being shown that love was abused, but then I was also being guilted and tripped like it was my fault.
Right. Yeah.
Every area.
And you just take that into really every area. Yeah.
So then when I went through the soul retrieval, I felt like, yo, this woman ripped me off. I paid this woman $375, and all she did was fucking drum and do a reading for me. I could have gotten a reading from anyone else. However, there were things that were expressed to me about my grandfather, my grandmother, my aunts, like different people in my life that all played a role into my soul leaving. And again, coming back to the soul retrieval, as shamans, we believe that with every trauma that you go through, a piece of your soul stays with that trauma, depending how much focus and attention you put to the wound of that trauma. And so,
okay, a question about that. Okay, it's just because I engaged in it in a different way, that your
right.
soul is your soul. Your soul is always attached to source, right? Just veiled when we're in the third density, as the soul is awakening, as we start having our our connection with life and how we're creating, right? So when you say that the soul gets caught in the trauma, is that it gets caught and stays with that traumatic event that's kind of now in the recesses
Yeah,
of
so
your
it's like, the way I like
unconsciousness?
to explain is like,
Is
you
that
have a
what you
piece of
mean?
a pizza pie. That piece of pie is always going to be a pizza pie, but you can take parts of the pie by cutting it into slices. And now that piece of pie is a whole pie, but once you take
Right.
that first slice out of the pie's still there, but the whole pie is not completed. So yes, like Indigo Mystic is saying, is like soul fragmentation. So there's like parts of your soul that will stay with that wound. Your soul entirety is within you, but there's fragments of your soul that will stay with that wound. And this is when we start to lose our light. We start to lose that full connection to source, even though we're always connected to source. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I probably use different words while I'm talking to other people, because it's, to me, it's I call it the my separate cells that have that I've left behind, but they're in my unconscious, still with that trauma, or that hasn't been healed. And that's the way I've always said it. But the way you said it with soul retrieval, is that well, I think my question is, when I'm thinking of shadow walking, which I know Source has done that a lot with me in this past year, okay, and just going into the recesses of my darkness, of everything that I didn't even think was traumatic, but actually having to call those parts of me that, I guess, just like Indigo said, were fragmented inside of me, that needed to be released, to be brought into the light that was still there within me, and that part of me allowing me to let go of it, to acknowledge that it's okay for me to let go of it, to acknowledge that it's an old story. So I just wanted to know, when you said it, that part of the soul leaves you, is it leaves you in your the consciousness of, or let's put it this way, the awareness of that you are part of source, and it's just in the recesses of your subconscious that doesn't know that it's
when we come
into
the world, we come in
you know
whole,
what I mean?
we come in complete with full direct connection to source. When we experience a trauma, a fragmentation, right, a part of our soul, a piece of our soul, depending on how much focus is put on that wound, stays with that. And now another version of us comes in, which is not really a version of our true self. It's just a version of protection. It's a version of this is what I need to do to protect myself from going through that again, so that the rest of my soul is not lost to more trauma that is the same. And so now when we start doing shadow work, what happens is that those parts that we entitled ourselves to become just to protect ourselves are now being shedded away, so that we can regain back our true nature. And so with that soul retrieval, that's what ended up happening with me, is that I began to now discover all the parts of me that were not fully me connected to source, but were just the protective barriers that were there. And those were the reason why I was accepting behaviors from certain friends, accepting behavior from even family members, accepting treatments from my partner that I was accepting. And after that soul retrieval, suddenly, I don't know what happened, but something inside me clicked where I started actually seeing people for who they are. And was like, wait a minute, I don't deserve to be treated like that. Wait a minute, I don't deserve to be spoken to like that. Wait a minute, why am I being taken advantage of at work? Like, why? Like, it was like suddenly everything that I had accepted throughout my whole life, now it was a problem. Now it was like, no. And now I became the bad person. I was like, everyone was like, oh, Indiana's such a bitch now. Like, what the hell's wrong with her? Indiana this, Indiana that. Da, 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 da. And even me, because I didn't understand the process I was going through, I started drowning even deeper into alcohol. I mean, it became such a chaotic moment for me in my life. I lost my job that I had been for years. I mean, I've always been known as the person that worked 2 to 3 jobs. How did I do it? Now when I look back, because yesterday I worked the wedding with a friend and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna freaking die. I could not believe the level of work that I went through today. But this was my lifestyle before. I literally had, like, I will work a 7 to 7 shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I will go home and sleep for about 3 hours, be up by 10, at my next job by 11, work until 3 o'clock, pick up my daughter. Like, it was such a repetitive, habitual, workaholic kind of lifestyle that I had, right? I mean, in a sense, I felt like I needed to, because since the age of 16, I've been on my own and just needed to survive, needed to learn how to be able to feed for myself, shelter myself, and so forth. And so, like, it was just such a crazy thing. And then suddenly I was like, no, I don't need to work this hard to be able to survive. I don't need to tolerate this kind of treatment, like, from friends, so-called friends, you know? I don't need, like, suddenly I just knew that this was not the way. And the understanding that I have now of it, it's like my soul, my wholeness of connectiveness with Source was all coming back to me. I was regaining all of my power back. There was no more blindfold. There was no more walls that were up to protect myself. There was no more needing to dress and talk and walk a certain way to be accepted, because I was starting to accept me fully without any care about how anyone else felt about it. And it was quite the transition in my life. It was like, wow, like, now when I look back at it, I'm still, like, in awe, because I think of, like, friends that I swore were my best friends. They were my ride or die bitches, and da 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 da. Like, yo, we used to go out. Like, you knew all my secrets. I knew all your secrets. And it was like, those weren't actually friends. They were just a support system to the ego, to the subconscious hurting part of me that were there to keep me from having experienced moments like the other ones again that I had in my past. But now that the shaman went and did the soul retrieval of retrieving the parts of me that were whole, the parts of me that were true direct connection to Source, coming all back to me, was allowing me to start shedding what was not part of me, what was just became a part of my identity in order to protect myself. So it was quite the journey. And I would say that, yes, my journey did begin for me when I was around the age of 21, around 22. Let's see, my daughter was born when I was almost 22, so 23, 24. Around the age of 24 is when I began to, like, let go of being an atheist, because my parents divorced when I was 9, and I became an atheist. I was like, I don't believe in God. There is no freaking God. There are no angels, and there's no hell either. There's no devil. There's no demons. This is all shit, you know. There's nothing. If it's not science, I don't fucking believe in it. Show me how the atoms and the molecules came together, produced all the cells, and break it down into an actual thing. If not, don't talk to me about it. I don't want to hear it. This was my belief system when I turned around the age of 10, all the way up until, like, when I was about the age of 23, 24, when a good friend of mine, still we're great friends, came into my life and just started teaching me a little bit about self-love, started teaching me a little bit about starting an altar. And I was like, I don't know about no altar. What is that? Like, what am I talking to? Thin air? Like, this is bullshit. And I got a phone call from my dad one time telling me, you know, like he was very ill. He had prostate cancer, and my friend was there with me when I received that call. And of course, I went into this whole panic attack because this is my best friend. This is the only person that ever stood up to my mom for me whenever she was abusive, yada, yada, yada. And he said, well, listen, this is going to be a test for you. Since you don't believe in anything, and I keep talking to you about the archangels because the archangels are really, really connected to you since birth. You know, you keep denying it, but they are. Why don't you give it to them? Put it to the test. See how real they are or aren't. And, you know, allow yourself to connect with the realm of the archangels, and maybe that'll help you a little bit and help your father's situation. And so I did that. I placed the white, as he instructed, just placed the white mantle on a dresser in a room that was going to be just for that. I wasn't going to enter it to just read a book or hang out. It was like sacred just for that, a meditation room, he called it. And just, I lit a white candle, and I just asked Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael to protect my father, to help with his health, if it was for his highest and better good. And I did that for about like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then one day I called my dad, and I will talk on a daily. And he had mentioned that he had an appointment coming up. And when he went to this appointment, the doctor was like, well, we don't know what happened, but the prostate, like your prostate is back to its normal size. Like there's no cancer cells around it or anything. We're going to continue to keep you on this treatment, you know, to help, to see if it helps to maintain all your levels at where they're at. But honestly, like we don't see anything happening here. Like what happened? And when he called me and said that, I literally dropped to my knees while on the phone with him and just thanked the angels. And that began my belief in something bigger and something more than just science. That really kicked off the path for me. I was about the age of 24. And so the archangels led me to Reiki. I had a deck that was given to me by a friend. And hi, Patal. I had a friend who had gifted me a deck of archangel cards, and in that archangel cards, like shortly after that, I want to say like about a year later, the Reiki card kept coming up, which I had never seen that card in my deck. And then suddenly it just kept coming up. And I'm like, what the hell is Reiki? And I started doing research, and of course there's so much information on the internet about Reiki, good and bad. I didn't know what to believe. And I was like, and this is something that I was like, hey, look, if it's meant to be, it'll be a part of my life. That's it. I'm not going to keep searching for this Reiki stuff. And then one day I go into a metaphysical shop and that I always went to, a very trusted metaphysical shop, and I would always go to buy sage and buy crystals. And then suddenly I see on the door, free 10-minute Reiki in the basement. And I was like, what? Okay, it's meant for me. Let me go see what this is all about. And so I began my Reiki practice then. I received a healing. It was very weird. I was laying on a table, and it felt like my body was doing this on the table, like really fast, to the point that it was making me dizzy. And so I opened my eyes a little, and then I looked around, and I wasn't spinning. And there was just a bunch of hands, like not on me, but just like kind of hovering over my body. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the fuck this is, but I need to learn it. And at the time, I was like a chain smoker of Newport cigarettes, like chain smokers. I'm talking about 3 packs a week I used to smoke. And so I asked about Reiki. They gave me the information. I became Reiki level 1 certified. With Reiki, there's 4 different stages of Reiki. Really 3, because the 3rd level kind of puts level 3 and 4 in together. But there's different stages of Reiki, and with Reiki level 1, it's all about self-healing for 21 days. And the way that it works is that you're doing Reiki on each one of your chakras daily, but the Reiki energy works for 3 days on each chakra. So we have 7 chakras. I mean, there's way more than 7 chakras, but those are our main chakras. And so for 3 days, the Reiki energy works on each chakra until it reaches the 7th chakra, equaling 21 days. And after that, your body is pure, your body is cleansed, and now you're ready to go and get certified for Reiki level 2, where you're now able to give Reiki to other people, to animals, You're able to do Reiki for manifesting things. I mean, if I tell you guys the things that I've manifested with Reiki, even a home, before I moved to Dominican Republic, I was able to manifest a home with Reiki because my house was being sold and I needed to move right away. I've been able to turn cars on, cars that like suddenly don't want to turn on, and I'm like, is the battery, what the hell's going on? I do a little bit of Reiki, give it some time, and then within like 30 minutes, car turns right back on like nothing ever happened. Reiki is like, oh, I get so excited about it. I love Reiki, absolutely love Reiki. So, you know, at that time when I received the soul retrieval, I had already been Reiki level 2, but I was still dealing with a lot of like depression. I was still dealing with you know, like a lot of like suicidal thoughts, you know. At least the trying to commit suicide stopped after I received my Reiki level 2. However, I still had the thoughts that will run through my head of like, what if a car just came and fucking took me off the road today? That would be amazing, God. So just let it happen. What if I just fell asleep and not wake up tomorrow? You know, like that, those kind of things were always in the back of my mind.
Oh, wow. So that
was
the egoic mind that still had a little bit going on, right? Its mind was trying to hold on a little bit, you know, but that Reiki energy that you kind of charged yourself with was kind of, you know, pushing it back, and not that power. You were coming into your power, and your egoic mind was like, no,
absolutely,
she's gonna find me out.
And I would say, I mean, I've had students who had Reiki, and right after the Reiki first attunement, you know, like within 3 weeks, they're calling me. They're like, yo, I haven't had one single thought about suicide, or I haven't felt depressed. And what I've come to the conclusion is that it really all depends on the level of where you're at with your depression, where you're at with the repetitive patterns. How much do you entertain those affirmations? And for me, it was from the age of 11, you know, like it was many, many years of entertaining suicide, many, many years of entertaining that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't pretty, that I was ugly, that I was only good for people if I gave of myself, if I sacrificed. These were the kind of thoughts that hovered over my mind since I was 11 years old. So whereas with other people, I've had students that they just experienced 2 years ago a traumatic event that led them to suicide thinking or depression, and then they received the Reiki attunement, and suddenly it's like, oh shit, it's like it never even happened. I can now think about that moment that I went through, and it's not hovering over me with so much emotion and attachment. So, you know, it really, really all depends on the individual as well as the willingness, you know, because as much as I got to be realistic with myself, and that's one of the things that I've loved the most about my shamanic path is that you could never tell me, like I said earlier, don't ever try to criticize me, even if it was good criticism so that I can become a better person. It was like, no, don't tell me about me. And so if no one can tell me about me, I couldn't even tell myself about me. And so with my shamanic path and doing a lot of shadow work, I realized that now I'm like telling people like, yes, please, whenever you do see anything that you feel is not in alignment, if it's someone I truly care about and love, please tell me, because maybe I'm just not aware of it because I'm so stuck on the way of being that way that I'm not seeing it. So please do bring it to my attention. I even tell my daughter all the time, and that like one of the most beautiful bonds in my world is the one with my daughter. And we were actually talking about that the other day. She said, Mom, I love that I can just talk to you and tell you things, you know, because I have friends that really can't do that with their moms. And I'm like she'll tell me, she's like, Mom, I think like you're being too judgmental. You don't think you're being a little too harsh right now? And I see the ego coming up when I be like, no, because that person needs to know about themselves because the way they're doing things. And she's like, Mom, but it's the way you're communicating that. Like, remember the 4 agreements, Mom, be impeccable. You're not being impeccable with the way you're communicating that. And then it kind of puts me on check. Like, you know what? You're right. Ego Indiana, shut the fuck up. Spirit Indiana, take over.
Because where my kids, I still call them kids, but my adult children who now have children of their own and lives of their own. And yes, I had to eventually go on, you know, move on and be a mother in a different formation, you know. But when that egoic mind jumps in the front seat and tries to sit in the front seat and chat to me just continuously, my children will repeat something that I have said in a video, or I have you know, when I was saying something in a meditation and they're watching that meditation, they'll repeat it back to me. Mom,
yeah, my daughter
it
does
sounds
that.
like you're letting your ego have a field day. What? Right? You know, that kind of thing. And do you need to take it?
Yeah.
Do you need to take a time out? Do you, and these are my grown kids, but when they were younger, they would have that same conversation with me. It was like, okay, they could always talk to me as a friend. And I mean, sometimes they're just checking you. They're just, and they're back your words to you. And that's how you know, oh, okay, I do have to spiritually adjust, because if my 13-year-old child, and that was back then, is checking me, telling me about, oh, how I said this, and this, and you don't mean that anymore. That was just, you know, you're passing on that, you know, just simply keeping you in check. And even now, when you think they're not listening to you,
absolutely, absolutely.
Especially
I agree 100%. And, you know, I feel that my daughter, I always say that anyone who knew me always heard me say, I am never going to have children. I'm going to live the lifestyle like Sex and the City woman, just free and wild. Whoever I want to be with, I be with no commitments. Like, that was always my mindset, you know? And
that's, let me make sure that I come back to the question, because you just said something that I have another question about your journey. And it was a subject that you and Goddess Switch.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, so it was always that mindset of like, I'm never gonna have children, you know. And I worked with children for such a long time. Actually, one of my first paying job was with children as a mentor, camp counselor. I worked as a camp counselor in the summertime, and then during the school year, I was a homework tutor. And so working with children, oh my God, it used to drive me so crazy. I'm like, these fucking kids are so annoying. I'm never going to have one, you know. And
I was the opposite. I grew up with Chatty Cathy's and Baby Betsy's and Barbie and Ken. And my ex-husband grew up with Tonka trucks, and, you know, and we grew up in this a church environment where you get married and marry your high school sweetheart, and the man takes care of you, and you have 2.2 kids. Even that, I couldn't understand that, but it's like two toddlers and one in the bun, right? And that's going to make you complete you, right? And it was like, I couldn't wait, right? And each time I had each one of my kids, you know, pushing them out, I kept going, I'm never doing this again. I'm not going through the whole thing again. And lo and behold, you know, a year and a half later, another bun in the oven, right? So talking about these things that we'll never ever do, will never ever be a part of our lives, and then damn, here comes the third, you know, here comes the third one. Damn it, I'm gonna have a baseball
team. And for me, it was all of that. When I was young, I remember playing Barbie with Ken and everything, and I used to always envision this perfect wedding, and I was gonna have 3 children and everything else. But as I started growing up and seeing how toxic my mother was, I was always afraid that I would become my mother. So I started to program myself to believe that I didn't want to be a mother. I started to program myself to believe that I never even wanted to get married, especially after my parents got divorced. And they were together for 17 years. And then they get divorced when I'm 9. It's like, hell no. What the fuck was the point of that? That was a waste of time. That was how I started viewing it, you know? And then I got pregnant, I had a miscarriage when I was close to 5 months of pregnancy, and that was very painful for me. So then I was like, see, I knew it. I wasn't meant to be a mother. I'm not supposed to be a mother. I'm not going to be a mother. And then the fact that my daughter's father, who was also the father of the first miscarriage, was so like disconnected emotionally from me when I was going through that, was not a support system. It really got me to like really say, like, I don't want to ever be a mom again. And then when I had my daughter, when I got pregnant again shortly after that, and this pregnancy was successful, I still didn't have that support with him. There was no support as to like, let's change, I'm going to wake up and help you with diaper changing. My daughter was colic. So from 4 months of age all the way up until she was about 7 months, there was crying the moment it hit about 6 p.m. at night till about 7 a.m. in the morning, non-stop. I mean, I'm talking about not even 3 seconds of stopping, of crying. And I was dealing with all that by myself. So I was like, I'm never fucking having kids again. You know, and him and I went through a separation, and then he started, we got back together about 2 years after, and he started talking about, you know, doing it all over again. He was so sorry, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, fuck this. I found a doctor that was willing to operate me, and I got operated, and I now could not have children. I could not bear children even if I wanted to at this point, right? So I realized that a lot of that was, like we were talking about earlier, my true divine soul wholeness, connectiveness to the universe, connectedness to source was lost through my traumas. And with that loss through traumas, I started to program myself, because whenever something leaves, is always replaced. If you don't replace it, it comes right back. And so for me, it was like I programmed myself because of all the pain, that I didn't want to be a mother, that I didn't want to be married, that I didn't want to have children, that, you know, there was no God, there was no hell or heaven. It was just science. And as time went by and I started healing and I started doing all the shadow work and I went through that soul retrieval and everything was starting to come back to me, that's when I started to realize, like, oh, holy shit, I made a lot of decisions based on fear. I made a lot of decisions based on the protecting of the subconscious mind stuff that was going on, but I wasn't aware of. So consciously, I was working with the ego on making all of this decision. And when I talk about ego, I'm talking about emotions that are related to shame, emotions that are related to guilt, emotions that are related to fear, emotions that are related to just, you know, judging, self-sabotaging. A lot of that was going on. And I made a lot of decisions based on that I didn't realize were the real reason until I began to really dig into deep healing. And to really, you know, like in the beginning, it was all reiki and the crystals and the oracle cards and you know, just doing a lot of affirmations. But on the path of spirituality, it goes way deeper. I really truly feel that the real work of connecting with a spiritual path starts when you start doing shadow work. That's when shit gets real. Because this is when you really understand that spirituality is not a walk in the park, all butterflies and being positive all the times. You know, you ask where am I now with my journey? I still have days where, like, I wake up and I feel crappy and I'm like, what the hell? Why am I feeling like this today? Like, I can't even stand myself right now. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm not like this holy woman walking around. I'm a shaman with my drum and I got all these crystals and I'm bringing healing to the world. As much as I offer healing to the world, I also bring myself healing. I stand in the sun. I soak in the sun, even if I'm drenching in sweat, because I understand the power that the energy of the sun brings to my healing auric field and interior field. I walk barefooted on the ground, you know, where people are like, oh my God, you're going to step on cow shit. I'm like, good. I need some of that fungi in my life, you know, like they're.
Yeah, that's why I asked it. Because for me, I just truly believe that our spiritual path is till the day that our body, mind, and soul separate. And there will always be a deepness to being connected with source. When I first started my true, I think my soul has revealed to me that I have been on my spiritual journey since I was 3, right? And when I had that first connection with Source telling me that, I just went, okay, I don't remember shit from 3, so you're gonna have to explain that one for me. I think I needed a little deeper intel. And as I went deeper and just allowed it, surrendered to, and I didn't know then I was shadow walking. I just thought I was in surrender, right? But I did know that once you brought something forward and surrendered it, you had to replace it with something, just like you said. Otherwise, there'll be remnants that will see that room. Absolutely. And will try to venture back through the ego. So I did know that, right? And for me, it was, I think, since 3, I did find out later about what my soul meant about 3. And it was, the truth was, yes, I have been shadow walking, and my soul has been expanding and growing since then, right? And the thing is that the journey is not going to be easy, because I thought once I awakened, quote unquote, the awakening, my spiritual awakening, and I put the thing, I thought everything was going to be hunky-dory, and life was going to be beautiful, and I wasn't going to deal with crazy people anymore. I wasn't going to have to listen to people and their perspectives of me, listen to people trying to put me on their fucking couch when I tell them I like this instead of what they like. I thought it was just going to, all that shit was going to go away, right? And then as I got deeper into my meditation, and Source said, you yielded, right? You surrendered, right? And this is in meditation, and I'm saying yes. Okay, well then you got to go deep, because you're only looking at the tip of the iceberg, and you're not at the massive ice underneath the water. And Source said, are you ready? And literally through fear, because I felt it. I mean, even in my meditation, I felt it. All I could do was yes. Right? So some days I wake up just really scared.
Right.
And then there's other days where I wake up saying, let's go. Right? Right. And then Source will say, I know you're scared, but I got something for you. And it'll either, there'll be your live that's on, or there'll be God switching the codes that's on. There'll be Fifi from Root to Crown that will email or connect with me. And say,
it's such a beautiful way that alignment, the way it happens, because everything you're saying is exactly how it happens to me. Yes, it'll be you. Sometimes it's you, and I'm just like, I don't even want to fucking go on Instagram. It's another distraction. This is what I'm talking about. It's making me feel disconnected because of Instagram. And then suddenly it's like, no, get your ass on Instagram. I go on and you're live, and then I click on and you're talking about exactly what I needed to hear in that moment to get me out of that mindset.
And get out of the mindset. But on that last one that we did, it was like, oh, she's here. And Source says, click it, invite her in, right? And it's just, it's not random. Where I thought it was random, where I thought, that I had, just put it this way, quote unquote, God figured out, I did not. I did not have the source of all creation figured out. Why? Because it's too fucking deep to say that I'm done, or I'm finished, or I'm full of grace, when grace is still coming through me, right? You know, and I mean, I've just, everything that you've gone through with your mother, with your ex-husband, everything, literally when you were talking it, my my whole vibrational field was saying, she's free. She's free. She's free. And just every part of me was saying, this is what freedom feels like. This is what liberation feels like. This is why,
absolutely.
We're called.
Absolutely. And I would say a lot of that being free, because even after I began, after I did that soul retrieval, I was led to, Source guided me to taking a 13-month, doing a commitment of 13 months embarkment into learning the Quero tribes way of healing. And the Queros are a shamanic tribe in the Peru, in the Amazon. And they work a lot with stones. So I am a mesa carrier. I don't have my mesa here in Florida with me, but they work with stones, and each stone represents a different healing and energetic. And every single mesa carrier, it's different. Not one stone in my mesa is going to be the stone as another person's mesa, because it all depends on the medicine that that individual shaman has to offer. And so, I was led to taking this 13-month course of learning how to heal the Queros way. And I got initiated into the Munaiki rites with the Munaiki. It's a translation of all is love. We are all love. We are all one. And this really embarked and dove me deep into transforming from alcohol. I mean, literally, like yesterday at the wedding, so many people were drinking. And let me tell you, like, I am so sensitive to the energy of alcohol that just every time I went around the table to throw away a cup that was left on the table with alcohol, and a lot of people were drinking tequila, just from touching the cup, I can feel that energy, that essence. And from smelling it, I was starting to feel drunk. And I was just like, oh my God, like I have to like block this out, and I even went into, calling out the numeric code that Blue Crown has taught us with the 10845. And I was just like, I closed this energetic connection between alcohol where it's not going to affect me. And the whole night I just kept going around, 10845, dumping it out, 108, dumping it out, dumping it out, dumping it out. I had tequila last night. It was a different experience for the first time. Yeah, I mean, wow. The tequila, I mean, there's a reason we'll call spirit, because every body for everyone. I know for me, tequila, when I used to drink tequila, it was, I will just mourn. I will mourn. I will start mourning about the relationship I had with my mother. I will start mourning about the ex-boyfriend that didn't treat me right. I will start mourning about the best friend that backstabbed me with the ex-boyfriend. I will start mourning and mourning and mourning and mourning. If I drank Hennessy, I just wanted to have sex. It was like, woo, I'm ready to hump anything around me. I just want to have sex, 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 sex. Like, was that sex master controlling my body, If I drank gin, oh, you don't want to drink gin around me, because you're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. Gin is just the spirit of fighting within my energetic. It was like every alcohol had a different spirit that manifested differently within me. And so when I began the journey of learning the Munaiki, being initiated into the Munaiki rites and learning the Queros way of healing, literally, like, it shifted. I didn't have to take any plant medicines, nothing of that nature. Just like suddenly I didn't care for alcohol anymore. It was like I noticed I went from drinking a lot, Absolute. When I was an alcoholic, I would drink Absolute and Red Bull on a daily basis. I don't care what day of the week it was, I was drinking Absolute and Red Bull. And suddenly I noticed that I was like, holy shit, that bottle of Absolute is still in the refrigerator. Like I barely drank any of it. I didn't even notice. Oh my God, like, wow, okay. And it was kind of the same thing when I received my first Reiki attunement. I noticed that instead of buying 3 boxes of cigarette, I was still at my first box of cigarette. And I was like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? So it's like, it's an energetic vibration that elevates your own being to a place that's above that vibration of alcohol, to a place that's above that place of like needing to vibrate here to feel good. It's like, I don't need to vibrate with alcohol here anymore to feel good. I'm already up here. For Christmas, my brother invited me to some friend's house and everyone's drinking and they're like, you don't want to drink? And I'm like, no. First of all, they were like, what are you drinking? And I was like, I'm not drinking anything. What do you mean you're not drinking anything? How comes you're so like full of energy and dancing and like, you know? And I was just like, this is just who I am. So imagine if I do drink alcohol, what's going to happen? I'm going to be a wild monkey jumping off fucking walls. And they're like, yo, your sister's dope, yo. Like, she ain't even drinking and she acting like she drunk. I'm like, yeah, I am drunk. I'm drunk on life. Like, just feel the essence of life and you get drunk off of it. It's such a beautiful energy. It's such a beautiful vibration. Why do I need alcohol? If like drinking alcohol is going to take me away from the vibration of source life itself, and it's going to drop me down to its vibration of how life should be felt in a having fun manner, you know? So every once in a while I'll have a blue moon for whatever reason. That beer is the one beer that doesn't have a vibrational, or maybe I'm programmed to believe that, who knows? But I have, you know, drank blue moons, 2 or 3, where I drink 3 or 4 blue moons, and I'm like, by the 6th blue moon, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel wavy. Okay, hold on. Like, I feel like I'm slurring my words now. But the next day I can wake up and go on about my day. Other alcohols I've drank, and it's like the next day I wake up feeling toxic. I'm negative. No one can really come around me or say anything because I'm irritated. I'm annoyed. I just want to cuddle in bed with my sheets and my pillows. And it's like, you know, it's all of the great spiritual teachers of the past are guiding you at this time. These ascendant masters are helping you develop your gifts. 333. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, you know, so alcohol was one of the things that I pretty much evolved from when I began my shamanic path of learning and becoming initiated into the Keros way of healing and initiating into that energy and connecting with the 4 archetypes, animals, and the 4 directions and things of that nature. So it's been like freaking transformational. However, I still was hurting from my mother. I was still wanting that acceptance from my mother. I was still wanting that connection and acknowledgement from my mother. And that for me began to shift drastically in 2021 when I sat with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca. Oh, I love Mother Ayahuasca. I mean, this woman, she is like that grandmother that will like tell your ass off, but then in such a passive way, like hand you a rose and make you forget about everything she just like yelled at you about, you know? It's literally been so transformational, sitting with ayahuasca. Right. Sitting with ayahuasca led me to psilocybins and healing with psilocybins as well. And then also guiding others with psilocybin. Like I now offer retreats that are to help people, individual, overcoming depression, overcoming addiction, overcoming just, you know, that lack of knowing what their purpose is. And so I began to work with shamanic plant medicines after connecting with ayahuasca. But ayahuasca literally, I feel like, was the topping of the ice cream like layer for me to really get to that place of freedom, because you mentioned freedom and liberation, and I feel like that's the one thing that really had me just still trapped into like that ego mindset, was still trying to have my mother acknowledge me, have my mother love me. And here I am, you know, 30 years old and 31 years old, and oh my God, my mom, why is she like this? I'm now at a place that, guess what, my mom is still the same exact person that I was just on the phone with someone who was reminding me about my mom. And they're like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but your mom really has like some ways to change. And I was like, oh, I know, but who am I to judge her? And like, you know, this is who she is. I got to accept her and just honor her, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even be having this conversation with you right now. And, you know, the more that I honor her and the more that I just continue to love her unconditionally, the more compassion I have for her. And I can see why she has such a huge ego that is the one that plays the role in her way of life. You know, she herself has traumas and wounds that she will never work with, because they're just too painful for her to go back and work with those shadows. It is a lot easier for her to function from a place of protecting herself, of saying like, well, every man is a piece of shit in this world. All the fucking men are pieces of shit, and they're all the same, and you can't trust no one, not even your own kids you can trust. Like, this is what she has built and programmed herself around to be, in order to protect herself from so much wound, so much trauma that she's experienced in life. Had I not sat with ayahuasca, I would have never been able to look at her from that manner. I honestly, truly believe that ayahuasca saved my relationship with my mother. You know, I mean, I always longed for my mom to just hug me genuinely, for me to feel it and not feel awkward, because it was never given to me as a child. So then as an adult, when she will try to hug me, it was like, ew, this feels weird. Like, why is she hugging me? Like, get away from me, you know? And I remember after an ayahuasca ceremony, about 2 months after that, I went to go visit my mom. And we went for a walk, her, my brother, my daughter, my sister-in-law, and her dogs and her cat. We all went for a walk, and she put her arm around my waist, and as we were walking, and something about that, it just felt so loving. It felt so loving, and I can really feel that, like, genuine, authentic love coming from my mother, that it wasn't her ego. It was like my actual mom hugging me. And at that moment, all I can think was like, thank you, universe. Thank you, source, for this unconditional love that my mom has to offer me, you know? And it was just for that split second. I felt it. And I'm in tears now, because these are tears of joy, where I was just like, wow, I never thought I was going to experience this from my mom. And how many other times has she held me in the same way, but I didn't feel that, because I was still within holding resentment. I was still within holding that pain. I was still within holding that mindset of like, I've done everything in my power to get this woman to accept me, and she still doesn't accept me. However, after going through that transition with ayahuasca and going through so many revelations, so many things were revealed to me while I was under the influence of the medicine, that, I mean, ayahuasca will really open up this first eye to the point where you're just like, there's no way you can look at life in any other way afterwards. There really isn't a way that you can look at life in any other way afterwards when you sit with ayahuasca, because it opens up your mindset, your energetic field is attuned to a higher source of consciousness, that there's no, like, you just can't, there's no like looking at my mother the same anymore. Like, I literally was able to witness things about my mother's childhood that then was confirmed by through conversations with her own sisters, because my mom is still in denial. She will never admit to anything from her past, because she wants to paint this perfect world like this perfect picture to the world. And that's what the ego does. The ego always wants to show up as a perfect, I am the best, I got everything in control. That's not what life is about. There's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
I mean, if there was, you know, I think maybe God would have just, universe would have only created one human being and left it at that. And it was just like, no, I got to keep rebuilding and building and building and building and building and building and building until I get it right, until it feels right, you know? And that's how we should be, you know?
Well, I think Source got it right, because Source created us perfectly imperfect. The perfect part is that we are the spirit of God embodied in a human incarnation. And the imperfect part is the source or awareness or God Almighty, whatever you choose, Jesus consciousness, Buddha consciousness, whatever anybody chooses, that source is saying, I'm the perfect that is flowing in, as in and through us. And the imperfect part is I get to feel every choice that you make, regardless of whether you consider it perfection or not. And right now I was going to to say your mother is at that point where she's protecting herself, and Source is saying that that's okay. Source is saying it's okay. That's a choice too. The choice that you have moved on and opened yourself up to immense, what's the word? Source is trying to give it to me. The realm of absolute love without judgment. But it is okay for your mother to hold on to protection. Why? Because it's a choice. It's all it is energy. I went through the same thing with my older brother. I wanted his attention and his love and his acceptance of me, as not as a kid anymore, but as an adult who is succeeding in life and doing all these things, and never getting it from him. He could in other people. He could see it in, he could drop a name in a minute for other people, but he wasn't seeing it in me. And until I started just to deep dive and go through that shadow work and call that piece of, like you say, that piece that shadow me with that piece of my soul that needed to be reintegrated with me, I couldn't see just loving him unconditionally, just the way he was. That him at the time was, he could be that way, and I could love him through and just be that way. It was like, no, I've got to do this, and okay, if I can't get his love for me, I'll just not talk to him. I just won't be in his presence. Take his shit anymore, because he's not seeing me for me. He's not letting me have a say about me. So I'm just not going to take his shit about me anymore, and just off the radar. And I thought that was unconditional love. Unconditional love is being in the presence of someone and allowing them to be exactly
without expectations, without any of that. And I wanted to just share, I saw that what's her name? Indigo Mystic says, I'm on a healing path with Mother too. I relate so deeply. I just want to share a prayer that that was given to me during my learning of shamanic, that really helped me a lot. And I can, if you care to receive it, I can send it to you. It's also a prayer that I also, when I did my 4 weeks of connecting, honoring with the ancestors, I taught it to everyone who embarked on that. But it goes, Dear Mom and Dad, thank you for the life you gave me. I accept it fully just as it is, with all that it cost you and all that it cost me. I made something out of my life to honor you and to bring you joy, so your life and suffering was not in vain. If I can, I hold on to it and honor my life. If I can, pass only the good as you intended to me. I take you as my mother and father, and you can hold me as your dear child. You are the right mother and father for me, and I am the right child for you. You are the big one, I am the small one. You give and I take, dear Mom and Dad. I am glad you took Mom. Sorry, I got lost here. You are the right mother and father for me, and I am the right child for you. You are the big one, and I am the small one. You give and I take, dear Mom and Dad. I am glad you took Mom to be your woman, Dad. And Mom, I am glad you took Dad to be your man. Both of you are the right ones for me, only you. I return to you the burdens I had to carry that belong to you. I took them out of love. What is behind you and between you, Mom and Dad, belong to you. And I know that you are strong enough to carry them yourself. I carry only what is mine with grace. Please bless me when I do things differently than you. I do it to honor you and for the love that I have for you. I come to offer you my heart, and I say yes. I love you, Mom and Dad. And so this was a prayer that I literally would recite almost every day, and envision that for my mom, because I know that my mom, being a single mother, put a lot of her burdens on me, being the oldest child, that were not mine to carry. They were her responsibility as a mother, but from the place that she was operating, of that desperacy of not knowing who else to lean on, she did nothing but put all her responsibility on me, the older child, you know? And so it's a prayer that I recited like daily for almost 2 months. Because in the beginning, when you're not used to saying prayers, or you're not used to saying affirmations, they're just words that are coming out of your mouth. You don't really start feeling them. But the more you repeat them, and the more you visualize these words being in existence, being into place, then the more that you are able to really get to a place of really vibrating that prayer into existence, really vibrating that prayer into a place of accepting it within your own being. So it is a very powerful prayer that allowed me to really, you know, one of the things too, like any problem my mom and dad had, I was always in the middle of it. Like it was always like I was their mediator, you know, and not so much with my dad, more with my father. Not so much with my father, more with my mother, where it was like, oh, your father has another woman. I don't want you talking to your father. You're not going to see him. And it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with me? Like, he's still my dad. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of things that took play in the role that like forced me to become resentful towards my mother, you know, and with prayers I was able to release a lot of that resentfulness. But I truly believe, and I will say it again, ayahuasca truly opened up the doors for that true forgiveness to take place with my mother, for that true bond where like now my mother is still the same mother. She's still who she is, but there are no emotional attachments to my mother and me as far as it affecting me negatively. When my mother begins to go on her rants, as she does, you know, the other day I sent her a video. I sent her a video about the affirmations. Like, we're able to heal our own body with affirmations, because she does have kidney failure and goes through dialysis 3 times a week. And I sent her that video, and her response, I just laughed. See, like I can just laugh about it, where before I would go into this whole rampage about, why is she always trying to force Jesus on me? Can't she see I got a relationship with Jesus? It's not just her way. It's like, I just let it go, you know. Her response to that video was, oh, my daughter, my dear daughter, I pray for you daily. The coming of Jesus Christ is near. I don't want for you not to be able to enter heavens because you're following the wrong routes, my daughter. Please. Like, she literally, the tone that I'm talking to y'all in is the same way that she was like coming at me in Spanish. She was talking Spanglish to me, and she like, my daughter, once I'm leaving to the heavens, I'm not going to be able to pray for you no more from the heavens. Please, please, I'm begging you to go to the church and repent. And I'm just like, okay, Mom, I love you too. I wish you a great day.
I'm say that prayer that you said, as I embodied it, it just literally, my throat chakra, as you see, I'm coughing and whatnot. I haven't coughed the whole time until now. And it released, I think I released, even though it was a mother and father prayer, I think for me it was family, and not brother, but, and then you started talking about this conversation, this one that you were just finished. And it's about also releasing, because I love my baby sister so much. I do. I love her so much. We have always been, we are the cancer, she's Cancer, I'm Gemini. We're born, I was born June 12th, she was born June 23rd. And that prayer was very powerful. And I have always been just allowing myself to allow her to be her without imposing on me. And I've been using the unconditional love of Source, but of late, she has been asking me some questions that I've been pretending not to take personally until right now, when I had a release with that prayer. And the release is that I have to truly allow her to see Jesus the way she sees Jesus. Exactly that way. And it's okay for me to be me and see Jesus how I see Jesus, the consciousness of Jesus, right? And when she keeps asking me, do I worship the same God she worships? The answer is yes. That our perspective on it is okay to have. It's a perspective and an embodiment that it's okay for each of us to have how we see it. And that I can truly, 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 truly love her just the way she is. It's not about her perspective of me. Right? It was, man, it was, okay, I feel it coming up. I feel it coming out. I just feel it just, I'm going to tell you, Source is always going through a shadow.
That's beautiful, but it's beautiful.
With me. Right? But it is because I thought that was a, done deal. And here we are. Here we are, guys. Your journey, your path, it's never done. It's never done. It's always a continual relationship with Source. Continual. So many deep dives that you don't know when Source is going to say, okay, it's time. You could be sitting at the dinner table, across from your parents, across from your sisters and brothers, across from people who you work with, and Source to say, it's time. And all of a sudden, you're just open to every scenario that Source says you can do it. You can do it. You're seeking it. Open up your eyes. Oh, you mean I have to lay my spiritual eyes over your physical eyes so you can see it a little bit more clearly? Here we go. Here we go. And showing you everyone who has been in a path of feeling like they're less than, feeling not whole, not knowing that your ego, it's not your best friend, but it's not your enemy either. It's just a software program that you get to go into.
Absolutely.
And you get
we have the choice. That's why I always tag everything Miss Indiana's life choices.
Life choices. Come on. If you don't have to do it by yourself, you don't have to do it alone. Source is always there. Source will always send you somebody. Always send you a video. Always, you know what? We talk about we don't want to watch TV.
It's talking to you.
I guarantee you, every movie that you even watch, every movie, it's talking to you. It may be one clip that you watch over and over and you go, I didn't remember that, but I get it now. I get it now. You watch the news. I don't watch the news, but I'll tell you, I watch it enough to get a little bit of information about what I have to pray for or what I have to hold space for. And in that news clip, just a little news clip, they're going to show you a person who excelled at something, who took a negative and made it a positive, right? So everyone who Source is telling me that there is someone in this life, someone that's moving through, that's hurting right now. Source says, you don't have to say who you are. All you have to do is know that Source is there.
I feel that completely. I hope. Yeah,
it's and people may ask why I cry. It's because this physical body is feeling there's something that Source has given me, and I don't know what else to do with it. It's for someone, I don't know who, but Source wants you to know
alone. You're not alone at all. You're not alone. And everything that you're saying, literally, Sandra, it's resonating, because when I began to talk about the mother wound, I can feel this wound is a consciousness, is a collectiveness. It's not, you're not alone. You're not alone. And understand that your mother does love you. Your mother does care for you. Your mother does acknowledge you. You came from her womb. It's just a matter of her going through her own ego. This is her way of protecting herself because of her own traumas that she's been through. So don't feel that you're not wanted. Don't feel that you're not accepted. Don't feel like you're not enough, because you are more than enough. You are more than enough. Like, you are more than enough than you can even possibly imagine. And your father, understand that men live and grow up in a culture where they're told that if they cry, they're not men enough. If they show any kind of emotion, they're weak. That if they even show a little bit of empathy towards anything, then they're letting go of their strength. And so that type of molding, that type of mentality is what has them disconnected from their source of being a father, of showing up emotionally as a father. But deep within, they love you. Deep within, they do truly care. Don't take it personal. You're not alone. You're not alone. And I don't know who this message is for, but it's definitely, it's one of those things, like you said, when you don't speak upon it and you don't play a role, it's going to show up in a different way. Because this was coming up strongly when I began to talk about the mother wound. And then I decided, I said, just stay on track with what we're talking about. Stay on track. And look, we are on track. Everything is on track.
If two egos are having a conversation, they are only going to talk about the negative that you see, the negative that it wants you to feel, right? Because the egoic mind, all it wants to do is just protect you. It doesn't want to be a friend with you. It just wants to keep repeating the cycle, keep repeating a degraded cycle, a record player with a needle that's so dull and so oh here, you hurt so much, Source is with you. Source is with you. Source is here. And it won't. It won't. And you know, Source is really in a place of reminding you that you are whole, you are complete. You came into this world being all and everything that was useful for you to shine in your light. And so allow yourself to feel your own light. Allow yourself to feel the essence of your own love, of your own power. What are the parts of you that you're not yet fully accepting? And start working on that. Get onto a path of saying, you know what? You know, like I mentioned this the other day, my arms were something. I was looking at my wedding pictures yesterday. It came up like how big my arms were, and they were one of my biggest insecurities. So I had two choices. I can either continue to babysit my insecurities and talk horribly about my arms and make fun about my arms, or I can start taking actions to make my arms feel better, you know? And so I began, and I still got this little flab here. Y'all see this little flab?
But now I love this little flab. It's like I adore my little flab.
Yeah,
I know that it's part of me because I worked so hard to get rid of the extra flab that was down here jiggly. And I was able to like thin and slim my arms down to a place that now I feel confident with them. So I took actions in that direction. So it's a matter what Source wants you to understand, understand, and overstand is that all the love, all the acceptance, all the acknowledgement that you're waiting for and expecting from your parents, from your loved ones, from those that are closest to you, you need to give it to yourself first. Start to acknowledge yourself first. Start to respect yourself first. Start to give yourself the love, nurturing care that you want everyone else to give you. And I promise you, you're going to start receiving it from others. But it's time for you to do it for yourself first. And the moment you start doing that for yourself, all of that pain, all of that suffering, all of that feeling like you're alone is going to little by little fade away. It's going to diminish. You're going to start noticing that you're not alone because you are so surrounded by pure, divine, guided love from Source being, from the universe, from God, from whoever master, angels, deities that you want to believe in. You're surrounded by it all. And so when you start to connect to yourself, you're going to be able to connect to that Source even deeper. And then through that connection, everyone else and everything else around you is going to align to where you're at with loving yourself. It all starts within. And sometimes we're expecting so much from outwardly that we lack to give it to ourselves. We lack to really be at a more preserved selves with our own energy because we are waiting for the preservation of other people's energy to come and love us and give it to us. It all starts with love of self.
It all, yes. Unconditional love of self. We've been taught as human beings that we get love from other people. We acknowledge love from other people, and we see how they love us, and that's how we're supposed to love ourselves. But that's backwards. That is backwards.
Yes.
You were born love. You were born love. Born awareness. You were born Source. You were born that way. You didn't have to go out and find it. You don't have to go out and seek it from other people who don't show themselves love, but say, I'm going to show you love, and then show you what they think their broken pieces of love is. And we're told, oh, okay, but it's not okay. It's a choice. Source is saying, if you choose that, it's okay to choose that. But Source knows it created you perfect. Perfect because you're Source. Imperfect because we are learning and understanding and growing and expanding. And it's okay to do something that does not feel good and then go, baby, that didn't feel good to me.
I'm giving you a hug, sending you a hug.
Else.
Feel it, receive it. Big, big hug, spiritual hug to you. I'm feeling called to sing a song, and it's in Spanish, so I'll do my best to translate it a little later. But it goes, ábrete corazón, ábrete sentimiento, ábrete entendimiento y echa a un lado la razón y deja brillar el sol que consigue en tu interior. Open up heart, open up emotions, open up mind, and put to the side all thinking, and allow your inner sun to vibrate in your interior. Mm-hmm. That is a song that truly, truly allows me to just connect to that sense of self-love, to that sense of just understanding that we are all beautiful, vibrant stars within. We all have a sun within. We all are connectiveness and one with the universe, with Source. And as long as we continue to remember that and to connect to that vibration, connect to that energy, the deeper and the more that we learn to appreciate ourselves. And we put all of the thinking to the side, all of the ego, because the ego is the one that puts us at a place of thinking and overthinking. And so we're able to put all that to the side when we open up our hearts, when we connect to our emotions, and when we connect to the mind that synchronizes with the heart. And then truly, truly just allows us to shine, to connect to that brightness. Like Sandra said earlier, we are born light. We are born connection to Source. And it's important to always remind ourselves that, especially when we're feeling alone, because the people that we love the most aren't acknowledging us, aren't accepting us. Understand that when you are truly connected to Source and become one with Source, you literally are going to be looked at different. You are not going to be understood because everyone else is operating from a place of ego, from a place of programming by society. And so they're not at that alignment with you anymore. And so it's important to understand that when you're not being accepted, when you're not being acknowledged, when you're not being at a place of just being wanted in the same space because you are different, that doesn't mean that you're less. That doesn't mean that you are not worthy. It just means that you are vibrating at such high frequency that the people that aren't vibrating at that frequency cannot relate. And that's why they will try to like kind of keep you at a distance. But it's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you're not a beautiful, divine source being that were created by the Creator. Therefore, you yourself are a creator. That's so important to remember. And thank you so much, Sandra, for, giving me the opportunity of being on your podcast and for taking this conversation into this direction, because I really, really feel that the public, the collectiveness of consciousness that are on with us and who have gathered with us today, this afternoon, this was all useful for their highest and better good. I trust that it is. And I thank you for opening up this space.
I'm so grateful and thankful that you confirmed to do this podcast. And I'm going to tell you guys something. And okay, all the podcasts that I've been doing, right? Every guest that has confirmed, they sent me a picture, right? So that I could do the flyer. And this young lady was busy. She was busy. And I didn't get the picture, right? But I knew that she was busy doing some other things. So I didn't freak out. I just kind of listened to soul for a minute. For Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then I just went, okay. Soul said, you're going to be creative. This is what you're going to do. And the vibration of the embodiment of the vibration of this young lady coming on just gave me some creative ideas for the flyer that I sent out. If any of you seen it, I sent it out. For the music that I attached to the flyer, for the video that I did this morning. It was like I stepped out of my comfort zone because of embodiment of the excitement that I had for this podcast. And I didn't know why. I'm going to tell you why I was so excited. And now I understand. Source had a plan of their own. And it was going to move through this podcast. This is the longest podcast that I've done. I looked at
Wow.
it is right now, it's 11:11.
4:11 here.
Right now.
4:11. Right? Wow, yes, it has been.
Source.
I didn't even notice time went by that much. Look at that. I love it.
Like that. But this and the right before I started up, I saw a post that was forwarded to me, and well, it wasn't forwarded to me. I was included in who they sent it to, and it was a post about light language and using light language and not using light language that wasn't wow. that people didn't agree to, and for me, at that second, I sat down in I think that was the briefest meditational moment. Was Source, are they really trying to hinder you from speaking your truth through us? They're really trying to make it so that we don't get to help in the embodiment of Source speaking and igniting people to their calling. They think that Source doesn't know who is ready to be awakened. But that's kind of the same thing that the outside quote unquote world is doing by hindering us and keeping us quiet. And then what Source said was, allow people to be people. Allow them to post what they believe their truth is, because you are being allowed to utilize me. And I just went, okay. Because
and look at how that same message relates to what you just shared about your sister. It's like hand in hand. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Absolutely.
Judge. Right? And it's like, but it's like your parents saying, I love you, but you need to understand a thing or two. I would always hear my say that. I love you, but you need to understand a thing or two. Yeah. I love you very much, but I don't like what you did. And it was like, okay, take the judgment away. It's a post. It's how somebody feels about thing. But it's also in the same vein. Is when I pull a card for somebody, I ask them beforehand, would you like me to pull a card? Because some people don't. I remember the very first time that I was on somebody else's live, invited into somebody else's live, and somebody else came into their live, and they're waving a card in front of me, and they're yelling and you know the words, but you didn't ask me. I felt very the energy was very I felt abruptly abused spiritually, right? So now I get that. You know what I mean? So it was like just before I went on, you know, it's like Source knows when Source is going to speak. Source doesn't have to have permission. That I need to be concerned about is when Source is speaking through me, not through anybody else or how anybody else sees it. And I went,
absolutely.
Yes.
It's, you know, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I have a private group on Instagram, Manifesting Consciously. And I came out of the shower and the message was so loud. I didn't even have time to get dressed. I just had to go on there wrapped in my towel with my hair still wet and let everyone know that you don't work with anyone's free will, against anyone's free will. I don't care if it's for the good or for the bad. And it was so important. Like, Source was screaming this, and I had to get on there and hurry up. Which I'm sure some people were like, "Well, couldn't this woman have gotten dressed first before she came on to tell us this message?" But it was like, no, I had to do it now. It was like, you have to tell them now, because I kept saying, I'm gonna get dressed first and then, and they're like, no, now. And it's a matter of like, you know, they even showed me the example of my grandfather, who my grandfather was a very known, priestess, santero. And people will pay him to destroy marriages, to destroy the outcome of other people's life. And like, he was good. He was fucking good at his magic and his craft. But how did my grandfather die? 5 years before he finally passed over to the other side, he was in a bed. He was pissing on himself. He couldn't feed himself. He had a horrible story. I mean, this is all karmic, and it all comes back to you. And this, what I told everyone in my group, is that this is called the respecting and having boundaries of other people's energetic field. You have to respect other people's energetic field. Sandra can call me today and say, oh, I feel sick, my throat is hurting, da-da-da-da-da. I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to send Reiki to you and boom, and it's done. No, Sandra, would it be okay if I send Reiki? Is it okay if I share a tea with you that I know that is really great for boosting the immune system, that was given to me from my spirit guides, not by any doctor or any book, and every time I share it, it has great results? Would you like that? You know, there's an importance with that. And it's funny you said that, because earlier, while everything was going, I felt like this deep, like just send, say, hey, ki, send, say, hey, ki. And it was such a strong urge to send, say, hey, ki, which in Reiki, say, hey, ki is emotional balance. It brings emotional balance for the mind, body, and spirit. And I have my Reiki stones here with me that I usually have in front of me every time. This is the Shokurei, which is an empowerment symbol. Whatever intention you put in of highest good, it's always empowered by this symbol. And then there's the Seihei Ki, which the Seihei Ki is an emotional balance symbol for the mind, body, and spirit. For whatever it is, it brings balance to the emotion of whatever it is you're manifesting. And then is the Hanshin and Shasei, which is a distance. This works as a bridge, so that it allows the energy to travel through. And the Seihei Ki kept coming up, and then I have my chakra wands, and it just kept coming up to do and do and do. And as I was doing it, it was almost like another part took over and was like, wait a minute, you know, there hasn't been a asking to do this. Even if you are doing it for the collectiveness, even if you are sharing what Source is telling you to share, there needs to be a sense of at least announcing what it is you're doing, because people who are on the other side watching and have no idea what these crystals are or why I'm tapping the Seihei Ki into each chakra, they may be thinking you're doing something that's not good, even if that's not what you represent. It's important that you announce or even ask permission for what it is that you're doing, you know? So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is an important aspect, especially for people who are just starting to practice spirituality, who are just starting to practice spell crafting, who are just starting to practice, you know, intention settings. Any intention setting, any spell crafting, any healing, anything that involves another person, always ask permission. Always ask permission. This is respecting other people's energetic field. This is just like, you don't want somebody to just show up in your face and just get up all up in your face. It's like, yo, give me my space. You know what I'm saying? Back the fuck up. It works the same way with spirituality.
Right.
No, I'm saying it works the same way with spirituality. Just like you want your personal physical space to be respected, our spiritual space should also be respected. You always ask permission.
Okay, so appreciate the good work.
Yes.
Have you?
Yes, it is part of my practice. I do practice. I mean, I don't practice palo, but I have been initiated into palo as well as in Santeria. And that was a huge battle I had with my grandfather. And my grandfather, of course, is on the other side and looked for every way to manipulate me into working the way that he practiced Santeria, the way that he practiced Palo, and I just was not in alignment with it. So there was a lot of spiritual battle, a lot of spiritual warfare that I went through for quite a few years. And again, thanks to ayahuasca allowed for that meeting to happen with my grandfather and me letting him know, like, yo, I know you did it that way. I know that was your way of earning a living. I know that you enjoyed doing things like that because it was an ego booster that you will put herbs together and flowers and candles and burn them on an altar and do some prayers, and then you will see the results. So it will boost up your ego. Good for you. But as far as my concern, this is my life journey, this is my life path, and I choose to work with magic differently. I choose to work with magic with the knowing of the people that are involved in the magic if they want to be involved in that magic, not because I need it. Even like what I explained in the group today, I know of people that are all like, and you brought this up, it's like you cannot work with ego and ego if two egos are having a conversation. I know people that are like, well, I'm being spiritually attacked, so I'm sending that shit back to them. Right. When you send it back, send it with love. You don't send it with the same energy they sent it to you, because then it just goes to show that you're no better than they are. It goes to show that you are still vibrating at an ego-based place. And it's not to say that you cannot protect yourself. I protect myself constantly because there are many people that are practicing love and walking around calling themselves light worker when really they're not working with light. They're working with darkness. They're working with entities and with spirits and realms that are not of higher consciousness, but has them deceived that they are working with higher consciousness. So it's very important to have that discernment. Have that discernment of knowing what it is you're working with. And I'm so grateful that you brought up the light conversation, because guess what? I was talking about that before you and I came on live. I was explaining to my friend and my daughter that when I was about the age of 10, my mom, being a newborn Christian, I will always see them in church when they'll start talking in tongues and like, and all of that. And I always wanted to experience that. And then one time this guy came to the church to preach, and he said that he was going to initiate people into being able to speak in tongues. And so I went up, and it was my first time ever when I was like about 10 years old that I spoke in tongues. And I really felt it. Like I knew I was saying something, but I didn't know what, but I knew it. Like I felt this vibration. It was like, oh my God, mind blowing. And then I never experienced it again because I walked away from church, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward a year ago, I was in a Temescal in a sweat lodge, and I began to speak in light language, which now I know is light language. I didn't know that that's what it was before. And it was like, and it went on for about 30 minutes to the point that everyone in the Temescal that was in there was chanting and singing. And when I began, it just became total silence, and I was the only one speaking. But then afterwards, everyone just went into this higher vibration of singing and dancing in the sweat lodge. And so little bit after that, I came on a live where you were on here with another gentleman, and I always forget his Instagram name, but he's so awesome. He's from England, and he sings, I believe it's England he's from. He's such an amazing, he has such a charisma to him. He's awesome. But either way, the two of you were on here and you were speaking light language, and I asked, I was like, what is it that y'all are speaking? Because when y'all were speaking it, I felt shivers all through my spine, and it was like such a high vibrational energy that I felt like I was getting high. And he explained that it was light language, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, how do I learn it? And he was like, it's probably already within you. If you're this attracted to it, it's in you already. You just have to tap into it. And then, what?
Yeah.
Yes. Right? And so a couple of weeks ago, I got called by a client to do Reiki for her. She's an alcoholic and wants to overcome alcoholism and everything else. And I've never, ever experienced doing Reiki and calling onto Isis. But when I got to her feet, I began to speak light language, and I just kept calling in Isis. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, my ego was trying to get in the way, and then spirit was just like, surrender and allow the energy to flow. And so I was speaking light language at her feet and doing the seiheki, emotional strength and balancing on her feet, and just speaking this language that I didn't know what I was saying, but I felt it. It's like I don't know what it is, but I can feel what it is saying. And next thing I know was like, at some point I just knew to stop. And when I stopped, she was fast asleep. And then her caretaker called me like hours later and was like, am I supposed to be concerned because she hasn't woken up to ask for alcohol, and she always does, like this is her pattern? I said, no, just let her rest. If she does wake up, offer her water, you know. And then the next day at noon, she calls me again and she said, I don't know what you did to that woman, but you need to come back because she has not asked for alcohol, and it's been 24 hours since she had any alcohol in her system, and she's being nice. Because normally when she doesn't have alcohol, she's a bitch. And I said, well, you know, whatever was channeling in and what was coming out with that connection with Isis and the light language that was being spoken and the Reiki combined is doing what it needs to do for her. So just let it be, you know? And I was just, at that moment, I just thought about you, and I was like, and I was talking about that to my daughter. I was telling her exactly what I'm telling y'all today. And I said, and I'm just grateful that I don't even know how I came across Sandra's IG page, but at some point I connected with her by logging onto her live IGs, and it's like just listening to her talking the light language activated something in me and connected me back to the first time I ever spoke in tongues, you know. So don't stop, keep going, fuck the naysayers.
I went, the first time I ever went to a holiness church, I don't know, I think it was about somewhere, I think I was between 12 and 14, and I was visiting a holiness church, and, you know, they were speaking in tongues, and I just remember saying, I don't know why I told my friend, because we were seeking out a question. What more? And so my mom said, well, you know, you got that question, you're going to have to go, you know, to different churches to find out what you need and how you need to feel the puzzle piece. And so after the Sunday school at the Holiness Church, they take them into the they call it, at this particular church, they called it the Great Hall, but it was just the church, you know. And they were doing, they were calling people up to receive Christ, and they were doing speaking in tongues while they were doing it. And I remember looking at my friend and going, and I was saying, I don't know what they're doing, but that it feels good. I could feel the vibration. I said, I'm going to learn how to talk like that, you know. And then, of course, afterwards, I didn't go back to the church. But when I got my light language, it was a point where my egoic mind was trying to make me, because it didn't sound like anybody else's. Every time I would hear it from someone else, it would sound like, you know, it literally, this is what it sounded like to me. Like it was, everybody had this high pitch, and it was like they were sounding like aliens. And they had clips, you know, that whole kind of thing. And, or either it was just really melodic and operatic. So for me, I was just thinking that my egoic mind was trying to play tricks on me to make me think that I was more spiritual than I was. And then I heard Shauna Lee. And she's known as witchy, I think it's witchy woman, or, and you know, now I can't think of her title because I've called her Shauna Lee for so long. But when I heard her, all of a sudden I just felt this jumping. It was like my soul was saying, see, you know, and then I was actually able to go on a live with her, and it just started movie.
Witchy kind of
And
woman,
I just remember
777.
hearing
She
in
just,
my,
I just got a notification that she's going live right now.
yes,
It's so funny.
witchy kind of woman. Oh, see, I'm telling you. And we were on live, and all of a sudden, I truly believe this is the thing. My soul and her soul were having a conversation. It wasn't about the physical me or anything. All I heard vibrationally is let go. Just let go. And there it was, and now, but I think also because when I go all in, I go all in. It's like if Source, if I told Source, if you want me to surrender, I'm surrendering all in. It's anytime you want to speak through me, it doesn't matter where we are.
And I believe that's where I need to just allow myself to surrender, because even while I was doing the Reiki healing for the lady and the words were coming out of my mouth, I was being resistant. I was like trying to control what was coming out of my mouth almost, and it was just like, no, let it be. Allow Source to do the healing right now. This is not you working for her or through her. This is us. Allow it to be. And so when I finally let it flow, it was just flowing. It was just flowing, but there's that level of resistance that does come in for me. And so that's what I need to work on. It's just surrendering to allowing it to just flow.
Yeah. It's a work for me too, because I know sometimes my ego will want to try to say, tell me, are you sure? Are you sure? All the time, literally. And sometimes it'll do it. I'll go to sleep with light language. Do you know what I mean? I feel myself on the cusp of light language, but when I wake up, it's like, you're still talking that shit, right? That's my ego, literally. And then and then I just go, okay, backseat now, because
Right.
that's Source. That's Source's area, and I don't need to know who Source is speaking for or to. I don't need to know why. All I need to know is that I am a willing, surrendered vessel, right? I don't need to know how old my soul is. If my soul is ancient, well, my soul told me that it was ancient, but it wasn't because I asked them. It was because I surrendered. So they're just gonna, if you surrender, Source is gonna give you all the downloads or uploads that are necessary for you, and I just and receive them, And I think that's why, for me, it's so hard when people say, thank you so much. I want to divert it back or give it back to Source. Oh, well, that's not me. That's Source. And Source is saying, didn't we teach you? I have to laugh at this. Just like my mother would say, I taught you better than that. Just say thank you. So I'm still learning, but it's like, sometimes it's just, for me, sometimes it's overwhelming. I literally had somebody say, why are you crying? And it's my body, the way my body handles it. And sometimes it's not tears of joy, of heartache or pain or anything like that. It's just how my body how it receives that vibration, and it use emotion to receive it. What is we've got some people saying, I don't know.
He
Wayne
asked about the Palo Alto, and I explained that I was initiated in Cuba a couple of years ago. It wrong blockade persiste, Cuba.
Oh.
Yeah, I had quite the experience with that initiation in Cuba. I went through quite a spiritual warfare after that. So it's very important to know what you're involving yourself in, or not even what, but who. you know, because every single religion out there is sacred. It's just a matter of how it is used in practice, you know.
Right, right. Every way
Right.
is the right way for soul to merge back with source. There's no wrong way. There
Right.
is no right way or wrong way. There just is a way. That's the source set it up. Source set it up. It's energy. It's how you choose to use the energy, and when the energy comes back
Right.
to you, how you choose to label the energy that comes back to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how you
and you know, it's exactly what Sandra's saying. Is how you create with it, how you connect with it, and how it resonates with you. You know, one of the things that I've learned to do that's been very empowering to me, it's when something is introduced to me, when something is just like a new introduction, something that I never heard of or I'm just hearing of, but have interest in it. Is that interest resonating on all levels of my chakra, of my entire being? How do I feel it in my entire energetic field? Because maybe up here is like, oh my God, that sounds so interesting, it's so exciting. But then the heart is showing fear, and then in the gut, in the spirit's brain, and your solar plexus, it's feeling like, stay the fuck away from that. Don't go near it, you know? Or is something being introduced to you and your mind is saying, stay away from that. But in your heart, you feel that pull, and your solar plexus is like, go to it, go to it. Because it's meant for you to go, but the ego is trying to keep you away from it. Or vice versa, it's not meant for you to go, but the ego wants you to go in that direction to deceive you, to misguide you and mislead you from reaching your higher purpose. Because when you get to that place of close connection and divinity with self, you become one with your soul once again. It removes the ego. There's that death of ego happening, and the ego doesn't want that. The ego wants to be in control. It wants to channel you. It wants to manage and navigate through your whole existence.
Yeah, it wants a personality, and it chose you. It's just your egoic mind is just a subroutine in the recesses of your mind. And get this, people, your mind is so creative. It was meant to be a triune creative a triune creation, creatively creating. Okay? Your body, mind, and spirit. You're not just mind. You're not just spirit. You're not just body. But you're all three in the creation of. Right? And religion has taught us all, in any religion, has taught us that it's God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Ghost, or whatnot. And those are the only triune things that we know about that's powerful, that are supposed to be all powerful. But you are a creative spirit that is all powerful, body, mind, and soul. And they balance each other. It's checks and balances. Get this. The government has checks and balances. Three different. Three different. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's a pyramid. There's a reason. Everything is for the glory of you. Everything. And you get to choose how you use it, how you create from it, what you do with it, what you don't do with it, who you're going to be, who you're not going to be. Yeah, we have people telling us about our life path numbers and everything, but you know what? You get to create from whatever you want. And if you call your energy negative, guess what? You're going to be creating something negative from that energy. So don't label it. Just call it energy and go create. And then when you create it, if it doesn't feel good, because that's why you have feelings, If it doesn't resonate in your body, because your body is resonating the emotions for the feelings that you're having, if it's not resonating, you know, dump it by the wayside, give it back to the unmanifested, because that's what source is for.
Absolutely.
Surrender it back.
Absolutely.
And go create something else. We are powerful creators. But hey, man, we might hit the 3-hour mark. People keep coming in. But I don't want to hold you up, because I know you got things to do. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have to figure out how to split this, I can save it, but then I have to figure out how to do it in a real form, you know. That's, hey,
there's a way, there's a spiritual solution for everything. That's one of my favorite books by Dr. Wayne Dyer, Spiritual Solution for Everything.
Oh yeah, I've got so many books here that I have to read, and then he's on my list.
So on Sun Moon, I do, but I haven't done for a while. Thanks for reminding me. I appreciate you both. The message were heartfelt. Yes, I was suggesting to Sun Moon Truth, considering journaling. You know, she mentioned, or he mentioned, I'm not sure if it's a female, or I keep feeling like, but I felt like I was grieving a lot today, not sure why, but I'll get the answer later. And then Wayne Believer agreed with her, so like a roller coaster ride, same way for me. And I just suggested journaling. Journaling really allows me to kind of get to the bottom, to the root of what it is that I'm feeling, like sometimes there is that roller coaster emotional going on, and it's like, where's all this coming from? Why is it coming from? Tears are dropping. And just reminding you, if you're crying, this is good. This is really good. You're releasing. Your body is releasing, and this is always good. Crying is such a great thing. You know, the same thing with vomiting. For those that are afraid of vomiting, this is your body's way of reacting, of releasing what is no longer in alignment with your body. So journal that. Journal it out. Just write down exactly what you wrote here. Like, you know, it's been a roller coaster today emotionally. I feel like I'm grieving. I don't know where it's coming. And next thing you know, you're going to be writing about shit that you weren't even thinking about. And you're going to be like, oh, okay, that happened last week, and I'm still holding on to that shit that X and Y said to me, you know? So yeah, Lucy Jane. I knew it was a female. I felt that feminine energy coming from there. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for interacting and for connecting. Thank you all, everyone who came on here. And Sandra, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. It's been a blissful vibration to connect.
I have to say, I'm between you and Angelica, I'm learning so much about shamanism and about areas that I once upon a time in Christianity were deemed as demonic and thing. So I thank you very much for actually really opening my mind. That my ego, that my soul has, you know, before I got on here, I always ask, am I aware? Right? Because we are awareness, and awareness is always aware. But sometimes when the flood of thoughts and the egoic minds become the loudest voice in your head, you can always ask if you're aware. The moment you ask if you're aware, the egoic mind fades to the background, and allow your conscious mind to start learning and observing things. And today I want to know about these questions that, you know, about shamanism, about Reiki, you know, about all this. And it's not even going to be one podcast. I know that I'll have to invite you back on, like, you know, 6 billion times, because there's so much information. You know, but it kind of, upgraded me, as the song would say, as Beyonce's song, upgrade. you know. So I thank you very much for answering those questions. I thank you very much for sharing a part of you and your journey to becoming. And I thank you very much.
Thank you
for this whole experience. Wonderful, wonderful experience. And for Soul to help whoever came through there that just needed the words that Source was giving.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I will be going live later on today to talk a little bit about the shamanic retreats that I am hosting. I have still space available for the one here in Florida. I'm not in Dominican Republic right now, y'all. I'm here in Florida. It's driving me crazy. But I'm just working on just being in alignment here. You know, there is an entirely different vibrational vortex coming into the United States and being outside on a different vortex plane, because these are different, all the continents are different vortex, and they are definitely aligned and designed with different vibrational energy. So it's definitely like a shock every time I come back to the US, and it's all learning to reintegrate with this energy here. But I am hosting a retreat here in Florida, March 6th. It does not include any psilocybin, which for those of you that don't know, I do work with psilocybin medicine with magic mushrooms. This one is more focused on detoxifying, working with Kambo, working with Rapé, working with Sananga, which I'm going to be going live later on to talk about those medicines. And then I do have a 5-day long shamanic plant medicine retreat in Dominican Republic, April 19th to the 23rd. And that one does involve all of the shamanic medicines I mentioned, plus the psilocybin and microdosing with psilocybin, along with excursions, all-inclusive meals, and all of that great juicy stuff, pick up from the airport. You know, it's going to be wonderful, amazing, magical. I'm working with 2 other sistrins who are also shamanic medicine healing as well. But anyways, I'll be going live later on, so I'll talk more about that on my live, or else we'll be here for 4 hours.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I do have a question, and this is just a selfish question, I guess, but I think about myself a lot. When will you be out here?
I've never thought about that, but I'd be more than willing to put something together with you. I'd be more than, you know, we can talk about it and see if we can create a space and make it happen. I've never thought about going. I've never, wait, you're in Los Angeles, you said?
I'm in what is
okay.
Cities.
I've never been to California, and it's on my bucket list. I have been to Los Angeles, but not California. And how does it work? I don't know. I know I've been somewhere over there, but it was for like a conference, 3 or 4 day conference. So I literally spent time from the hotel to the conference, hotel. And then I did go to the area where the LA Lake, is it the Lakers that is over there? The big, you know, stadium. I went to that area just to kind of do touring, and that was years ago. But
yeah. In Cali,
okay, there you go. My geographics is all screwed up. I didn't pass that class clearly in school.
Okay, yeah, okay. I had to learn that too. California is the state, Los Angeles is the city, and then you've got those sub-cities in LA County. You know, so you have LA City, and then you have the county of LA that has all these little mini cities. But yeah,
I would absolutely love to put something together. Let's talk about it. You know? We'll see what Source allows to align. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So take care, and I'll try to make it to your live. Hopefully, after I walk my little dog.
All righty. Much love. Big hug to you, and big hug to everyone who joined on here. I love you all. Love, and love to be with you all.
Yeah. Ruth says, Fifi says, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing.
Appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yesterday, I made a post of it, like, whatever, and then he's like, look, we're wearing the same color. And that blew my mind when I saw it, because I was like, look at the freaking alignment. I just love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Thank you. So we're going to say
10845,
closing the circle. This podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to say it 3 times because I'm embodying 10845. 10845.
Yes, aho. Goodbye, all. Love and light always.
Aho. Bye bye, everyone. Take care.